My grandfather left me his Purple Heart and a locked briefcase when he died, Marine veteran Jake Morrison told his therapist. Inside were classified documents from 1953, mission reports that were never supposed to exist. The problem is, the operations described in those files are still happening today, and someone's been watching my apartment since I opened that briefcase. Jake Morrison had been struggling with PTSD since returning from his third deployment in Afghanistan. The VA therapy sessions weren't helping much, but Dr. Elizabeth Harper was patient, professional, and one of the few people who seemed to understand what combat veterans carried home with them. "Tell me about your grandfather," she said during their Tuesday session. "Colonel Samuel Morrison, served in Korea, Vietnam, and some places that weren't supposed to exist on any map." Jake shifted in the leather chair, unconsciously touching the Purple Heart medallion in his jacket pocket. "He never talked about his service, ever. Even when the dementia started, he kept his mouth shut about the war." "And he left you something?" Jake nodded. "Purple Heart, a few photos, and this old briefcase. Military-grade, titanium locks, the kind they use for classified transport. Took me 2 weeks to find a locksmith willing to crack it." "What was inside?" Jake's voice dropped to a whisper. "Mission reports, operational summaries, personnel files, all classified top secret, dated 1953 to 1971. Project names I'd never heard of. Operation Midnight Sun, Project Deep Winter, Task Force Lazarus." Dr. Harper leaned forward. "Jake, are you sure these documents are authentic?" "That's what scared me. I have friends in military intelligence. Showed the papers to a buddy who works Pentagon security clearance." Jake's hands trembled slightly. "He went white as a sheet, said these operations were real, but they were supposed to have been terminated decades ago." "What kind of operations?" Jake pulled a folded photocopy from his pocket. "Psychological warfare programs, mind control experiments, something called domestic stability enforcement. And here's the terrifying part. According to these files, the programs never ended. They just changed names and moved departments." Dr. Harper studied the document. Even photocopied the official seals and classification markings looked authentic. "Jake, have you reported this to anyone?" "That's when things got weird. The day after I contacted my Pentagon friend, I noticed a black sedan parked across from my apartment. Different car, same spot, for 3 days straight. Yesterday, my mail was clearly opened and resealed, and this morning—" Jake hesitated. "What happened this morning?" "Someone had been inside my apartment. Nothing stolen, but things were moved. Subtle stuff. Books shifted, papers rearranged, professional work, and they left something behind." Jake reached into his other pocket and pulled out a business card. Plain white, no company name, just a phone number and a single typed line. "We need to discuss your grandfather's legacy." Dr. Harper felt a chill. "Did you call the number?" "Not yet, but I researched some of the names in Grandpa's files. 3 of the project directors from the 1950s. Jake's voice grew quieter. "All 3 are still alive. All 3 are currently employed by private defense contractors with government ties, and according to public records, they're all in their 40s. "That's impossible. If they worked classified programs in the 1950s, they'd be in their 90s now. Exactly." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Unless the life extension experiments described in these files actually worked." The room fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic outside Dr. Harper's office. She'd treated dozens of combat veterans with PTSD, but this felt different. Jake's story had too many verifiable details, too many specific names and dates. "Jake, I need to ask you something important. Do you feel like you're being paranoid, or do you genuinely believe you're being watched?" 3 nights ago, I would have said paranoid, but then I did something that changed everything." Jake reached into his briefcase and pulled out a tablet computer. "I uploaded scanned copies of the most sensitive documents to an encrypted cloud server. Within 6 hours, my internet was cut off, my phone service was interrupted, and that business card appeared under my door." Jake showed her the tablet screen. It displayed a message: "Files corrupted. Data recovery impossible. Someone remotely wiped my backups from a military-grade encrypted server. That's not paranoia, Doc. That's proof." Dr. Harper's training told her to be skeptical, but her instincts were screaming that Jake was telling the truth. "What are you going to do? Grandpa left me more than just files. He left me instructions." Jake pulled out a handwritten letter. "If anyone ever came looking for these documents, I was supposed to contact a specific journalist, someone he trusted, someone who's been investigating government black projects for 30 years. Are you sure that's safe?" Jake stood up, gathering his materials. "Doc, I've been shot at by Taliban fighters and survived IED explosions, but I've never been more scared than I am right now, because the enemy isn't some foreign terrorist. It's people in my own government who've been running illegal operations for 70 years. That evening, Jake met investigative journalist Carol Martinez at a diner 30 miles outside the city. She was in her 60s, with sharp eyes and the weathered look of someone who'd spent decades asking dangerous questions. "Your grandfather contacted me in 2019, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Told me he had evidence of ongoing government programs that violated every constitutional amendment. Said he'd leave the proof with someone he trusted." Jake placed the briefcase on the table. "What do you know about these operations?" "More than I should, less than I need to." Carol opened the case and immediately recognized several document headers. Project Deep Winter was psychological warfare testing on American citizens. Task Force Lazarus was life extension research using unwilling subjects. Both programs were supposed to have been shut down after congressional hearings in the 1970s. But they weren't. They went private. Defense contractors, pharmaceutical companies, tech firms, same research, same people, different funding sources. Carol photographed several documents with a specialized camera. "Jake, your grandfather wasn't just a soldier who stumbled onto classified files. He was part of these programs. And, at some point, he decided to become a whistleblower." "How do you know?" Carol pointed to a signature line on one of the documents. "Colonel S. Morrison, Project Director, 1968 to 1971. Your grandfather ran some of these operations before his conscience caught up with him." Jake felt the world shift beneath him. So he's responsible for trying to make it right. These files contain evidence of illegal human experimentation, murder, and conspiracy spanning 7 decades. Your grandfather spent the last 20 years of his life documenting everything, preparing a case that could finally expose the truth. 6 months later, Carol Martinez's investigative series, The Forever Projects, dominated headlines worldwide. The leaked documents exposed a shadow network of government-connected organizations conducting illegal research and operations on American soil. Congressional hearings were launched. Criminal investigations began. Several high-ranking officials resigned or disappeared entirely. Jake Morrison testified before a closed Senate committee about his grandfather's whistleblower materials. The Purple Heart his grandfather had earned for valor in Korea became a symbol of a different kind of courage, the bravery required to expose corruption within your own government. The black sedans stopped watching Jake's apartment. The mysterious phone calls ended. But late at night, Jake sometimes wondered how many other veterans' relatives had similar briefcases hidden in their attics, and whether they'd ever find the courage their grandfathers had shown to choose truth over silence. Did this story make you wonder what secrets might be hidden in your own family's military history? Do you believe some government operations should remain classified forever, or does the public have a right to know? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe stories about the courage to expose dangerous truths need to be heard, don't forget to follow the Frontline Voices.